Welcome back. Now I will continue my journey to becoming a React developer. I'm talking about a few JavaScript fundamental things and some pretty advanced things. So in this lesson or in this sharing of my knowledge, I will talk about, for example, this. This is a keyword in JavaScript and also in other programming languages. In JavaScript, it doesn't mean the same all the time. So let's take this example. We have an object with properties and a method called work. So here, when I call this method, I call it from the object Steve. The method is work and the console log Steve Rush is working. So this is connected to Steve, the object, in this case, because we call the method from the object. So this first name is Steve. This last name is Steve, object Steve and Rush. And this is just a text concatenation. So in this case it's very clear, and this is normal for other programming languages. But in this example here, I add another function within the work function. I called it nested function. Just an example. It's console logging this. Yes, it's consoling this. And this, in this case, is not referring to the object because it's not called from the object. It's called by itself here. So in that case, JavaScript interprets it as another object, and that's the window object. Yes, so here when we console log this from the nested function, we get the window object. That's this. And the other one is as before. Then it's referring to Steve, the object, and is called from Steve, the object. So Steve Rush is working is printed out as before. Okay, next topic is classes. Classes is a part of the object-oriented programming. It's used in React, of course. And a class is like a blueprint, and from that blueprint you can instantiate objects. And the blueprint have properties and methods. And the most important method actually is called Constructor. That constructor is used when you instantiate an object. You can give it a property, for example, name. You put it here in as a parameter in the method, and you give it the value of this name, and this refers to the class. So when we instantiate an object from this class person, we use the new keyword, and we use the class name, and we give it a name in this case. So this person can we log here like this, console log, and then when we want to get that object's properties, we use the person dot, and then we can access the methods and the properties that are connected to the object. So when we print out this to the console, we get Steve because we gave Steve the name here. And the same is when we want to get the eat method that is connected to this class, we console log person dot eat. So we run the method here, and it's just eating. Yes, here like that. So this is a way to organize the code better. It's easier to maintain, it's easier to overview, it's easier to find errors. You don't have to correct errors more than once. So that's the idea behind classes. And next one is inheritance. So with inheritance, we can take it a step further. And for example, you can inherit properties and methods from a parent class to a child class. If you have a parent class called animal, for example, the animal has some properties that all animals have. But if you want to have a class for birds, you can reuse some of those properties and methods from the parent class, like breathe and eat, for example. But a bird needs a special class because a bird can fly, yes, and not all animals can fly. So then you create a class called bird, and that inherits from the animal class. And let's take an example. We have, as before, we have the person class. A person can have a name, a person can eat, and we create a new class called employee. An employee can also have a name, it can also eat. So employee inherits from the person class, and then we use the extends keyword in JavaScript. So class employee extends person. So we put the property from person in the constructor, and we also add a new property called title, and this is specific for the employee. So we also give it a method called work. So this is also specific for employee. And when we create a new object from the employee class, we use the new keyword again, employee, and here we give it a name, but the name comes not from employee class, it comes from the person class, because we have inherited from the person class. The title comes from the employee class. So when we console log employee name, because we have inherited name from person class, we access name from person class when we write employee. Employee.name, so we get Steve. And when we want to print the title, we use employee.title. But we cannot use person.title because person is another class. It doesn't have title here. And that's the idea with inheritance. It's also about not repeating yourself. It's also about structuring the code in a smart way. And as you saw here, we have a super method. It's called super. And you need it in order to get access to the property from the parent class. Yes. All these things you have to read and practice yourself, of course. I'm just making a short overview of what I learned. Last topic for today is modules. Modules is a way to put code in different files actually and import them or export them. This is a better way to organize the code, especially have many lines of code. So for example here in the earlier example we have class employee and we have class person in the same file, and then we instantiate it in the same file. But another way to do it is to put each class in its own separate file. So for example, the person class can have a file called person.js, and we start with the keyword export class person. It means it's available, it's not private anymore, it's public, so other classes can use it and we can import it. And the next class, employee.js, is the file name, and here we import person from person. This is the path to the file. This is how you write it, with brackets and then the name of the class. And we also export the class employee. And then we in the main JS file, this is the main JavaScript file, we import employee into that file. And here, in this file, we instantiate it. And it looks like this in Visual Studio Code. We have the main JS here. We import the employee class, this file, which in turn import from the person class, and here is the export. And the person class export. So that's the way to do it with modules. It's very, very common, and it's used, of course, in React. So my journey will continue. I hope you will follow me along, and I will have a part 2 for this second week of my project. Part 2 will be a very simple React application. So see you there. Bye bye.